The wider space followed Lin Fan all the way to the meal hall path. No one walked beside him. No one blocked him. No one mocked him loudly enough to be heard. That did not mean respect. Respect was too expensive to appear after one fight. What followed him now was uncertainty sharpened by fear and curiosity. Outer disciples were practical. They did not need to understand an event fully before adjusting behavior. A man who touched fire once did not need a lecture before pulling back his hand from flame again. Lin Fan let them pull back. The root pain had become dangerous. He reached the shadow of the meal hall wall and stopped where stacked firewood hid him from the main path. Only then did he place one hand against the wall and allow his breath to tighten. Heat rose from his abdomen into his chest. The cooling leaf had dissolved completely. Blood pressed behind his tongue again. He swallowed. A thin line of red still escaped at the corner of his mouth. He wiped it away with his sleeve before it could fall. The body had exceeded the clean movement count. Damage report. Left shoulder, bruised, no fracture. Abdomen, surface burn from chi graze, root heat aggravated. Right meridian, scraped further by wrist contact in final exchange. Root junction, poison ring unstable but mark intact. Vitality, low. Immediate risk, fever, collapse, elder examination, Zhanghu retaliation through proxies. Immediate gain, public uncertainty, Zhanghu admission, witnesses, loosened support structure, access to stolen root powder in cooling leaves. Acceptable. Not comfortable. Comfort did not matter. He took another cooling leaf from his sleeve and chewed it slowly. Bitter cold spread down the throat. The fever retreated by a small margin. His hand steadied enough to move. Behind him, the old washing court began to speak again. The silence broke in layers. Did Zhanghu apologize? He had to. Lin Fan made him say the injury yesterday was real. Will he report it? Would you? I do not know what he will do. That last sentence spread differently. I do not know what he will do. Good. Predictability belonged to weak positions. Before today, everyone knew what Lin Fan would do: endure, lower his head, be beaten, complain to a steward, be dismissed. Now they did not know. The absence of certainty was the first aura of fear. Lin Fan had no illusion that fear alone would protect him. Fear attracted those who wanted to test whether it was deserved. The ending hook had already begun forming around Lu Chen's eyes. Lin Fan turned his head slightly. From the court, Lu Chen had not followed. He stood near the cracked basin, speaking quietly to Ma Yong. Zhang, who sat on the basin edge, dust still on his robe, face lowered. His followers remained at a distance. Lu Chen's posture was controlled, but not relaxed. He was recalculating. Not for Zhang Hu's benefit. For his own. Lin Fan expected him to move later, not immediately. Clever men disliked striking while the crowd's memory was fresh and unstable. Lu Chen would wait until he could frame the next test as something cleaner: a request, a favor, a spar, a report to a senior. Or he would carry the information to someone higher. That was fine. Information moving upward could become danger. It could also become advertisement. Lin Fan left the wall and returned toward the treatment room by the service path. He did not retrieve the root powder packet from the cracked stone yet. Leaving it there was a risk. But retrieving it under the eyes of the unsettled crowd would be worse. He had enough cooling leaves for the next hour and one pinch of powder already in memory through smell and touch. Evidence hidden in the court could serve later if Zhanghu claimed theft. A planted proof point was sometimes more useful than an object in the sleeve. He moved carefully up the drainage slope. The rear window of the treatment room remained slightly open. No one had checked it. He slipped inside, closed the window to its previous angle, removed the folded paper wedge from under the bed leg, and sat on the low bed exactly as before. The blanket still held the shape he had arranged. The cabinet remained closed. The door remained half open. A breath later, footsteps approached. The junior steward appeared. His face looked worse than before. Good. The investigation had reached him. You are still here, the steward said. Lin Fan looked up with controlled fatigue. Steward told me to wait. The steward stared at him for one breath too long, as if he had expected otherwise and was disturbed by obedience. Did anyone come? No. Did you leave? Lin Fan held his gaze. The steward's question was dangerous because it was direct. Lying carried risk. Telling the truth carried different risk. The correct answer was not answer but pressure. Should I have? The steward frowned. What? You sent me here to wait. Elder Gu ordered observation. If there was another instruction, no one gave it. The steward's mouth tightened. He wanted to pursue the question. But Lin Fan's answer shifted responsibility back to him. If Lin Fan had moved, perhaps the steward had failed to instruct clearly. If Lin Fan had not moved, the question was pointless. The steward was already under investigation for yesterday's complaint. He did not want new uncertainty attached to his handling of Lin Fan. Stay here, he said. Yes, steward. The steward did not leave. He looked at Lin Fan's torn robe. The shoulder fabric was damaged from Zhang Hu's punch. Lin Fan had overlooked that. No. Not overlooked. Accepted risk. The steward's eyes narrowed. Your robe. Lin Fan looked down as if noticing. The window frame, he said. Window frame? I felt heat. I stood to breathe. The frame caught the cloth. The steward looked toward the narrow rear window. The frame did have rough edges. Truth wrapped around lie. You should not move around, the steward said. Then send a physician. The steward flinched. Sending a physician meant informing Elder Gu that Lin Fan's symptoms had worsened under the steward's watch. Not sending one meant accepting responsibility if the symptoms worsened later. The steward now stood between two unpleasant choices. Lin Fan added softly, I can continue waiting. The steward seized the cheaper option. Wait. He left. Lin Fan lowered his eyes. That was one more small control point. The steward now wanted Lin Fan quiet, present, and not officially worsening. That desire could be exploited when it came time to leave again. Outside, the rumor of the washing court arrived faster than footsteps. Two disciples passed the treatment room corridor, whispering. He made Zhang Hu apologize. No, Zhang Hu only said he was wrong. Same thing. Lu Chen was there. Then why did he not stop it? Maybe he could not. The voices faded. Lin Fan sat motionless. The first aura of fear was not born from a single decisive strike. It was born from stories no one could fully correct. Each person adjusted the story to protect their own pride, and in doing so, spread the core further. Lin Fan had touched the pillar and changed its answer. Lin Fan had made Zhang Hu step back. Lin Fan had fought after root pain and stayed calm. Lin Fan had made Zhang Hu apologize. Lin Fan might report the witnesses. Lin Fan might not. No one knew what Lin Fan would do. That uncertainty would feed itself until someone stronger decided to cut through it. He expected that too. The next test would not come from Zhang Hu. Zhang Hu had lost the right to represent certainty. It would come from someone who believed he could read what Zhang Hu could not. Lu Chen was one possibility. Someone above Lu Chen was more likely. Lin Fan closed his eyes and focused on the root mark. The green-black thread remained open. Barely. He guided a thread of breath around it, using the cooling leaf's bitterness to steady the poison ring. The body trembled once. He suppressed the visible motion before it reached the hands. Another set of footsteps approached. Not the junior steward. Heavier. Calmer. The footsteps stopped outside the treatment room. Elder Gu's voice entered before his body did. Lin Fan. Lin Fan opened his eyes. The elder stood in the doorway, gray robe clean, gaze sharp. Behind him waited the junior steward, pale and silent. Elder Gu's eyes moved once over Lin Fan's torn robe, his pale face, his covered arm, the window, the cabinet, the floor, the bed. He missed little. Rumors traveled quickly, Elder Gu said. Lin Fan lowered his head. Disciple has been waiting here. Elder Gu looked at him for a long breath. Then, instead of accusing him, he smiled faintly. It was not a warm smile. It was the expression of a man who had found a piece on the board moving differently than reported. So I hear, he said. The junior steward's face tightened. Lin Fan's expression remained tired and respectful. Inside, he adjusted his estimate of Elder Gu upward by 1 degree. The elder knew something had happened. He had not decided what to do with it yet. That hesitation was another door. Lin Fan did not push the door. Pushing Elder Gu too soon would turn curiosity into control. He needed the elder interested, not alarmed, suspicious, not certain, invested, not possessive. That balance was harder than defeating Zhang Hu. Zhang Hu had been ruled by visible needs. Elder Gu's needs were cleaner and therefore more dangerous. Usefulness. Order. Profit. Face before other elders. Protection of sect resources. Lin Fan sat under the elder's gaze and let himself appear as a potential answer to several small problems, not one large problem demanding a cage. The torn robe helped. The pale face helped. The root pain helped. They made him look limited. Limited assets were easier to tolerate than limitless mysteries. Elder Gu took one step into the room. The junior steward behind him held his breath. Lin Fan lowered his head by the correct degree, respectful enough to soothe hierarchy, not low enough to look like a defeated victim. The elder noticed. Of course he did. You have made the outer mountain noisy, Elder Gu said. Disciple did not intend noise. No. You intended result. Lin Fan said nothing. Silence, sometimes, confirmed less than words. Elder Gu's faint smile returned. Better. The word did not praise. It classified. Lin Fan heard the difference. Elder Gu was sorting him into categories: frightened disciple, lucky weakling, hidden talent, liar, asset, nuisance. Better meant Lin Fan had answered in a way that kept more categories open. Elder Gu liked open categories because open categories could be priced later. The elder stepped closer and looked at the floor. No dirt from the washing court remained on Lin Fan's shoes. Lin Fan had wiped them on the moss near the drainage slope before entering through the window. A small detail. Elder Gu still checked. His gaze moved to the window frame. The scrape there was real. Lin Fan had made it real when entering and leaving. Truth arranged in advance was stronger than improvised lie. Elder Gu touched the frame, found the rough edge, and glanced at the torn robe. A poor room, he said. Outer disciples receive what they are worth. Elder Gu looked back at him. And what are you worth? There it was. Not philosophy. A probe. Lin Fan lowered his head. More than yesterday, less than tomorrow if the root stabilizes. For the first time, Elder Gu's expression changed beyond faint amusement. Only slightly. But enough. The answer was ambitious without begging, useful without claiming too much, and rooted in the sect's own language. It told Elder Gu that Lin Fan understood value as a process, not a complaint. Elder Gu liked that. He would also distrust it. Both reactions were acceptable. We shall see, the elder said. That meant he would not decide today. Good. Decisions hardened quickly in sect records. Once a disciple was labeled a cheat, talent, patient, threat, or asset, every later event was forced through that label. Lin Fan wanted Elder Gu to delay. Delay kept the label soft. A soft label could be shaped by the next event. The next event had already occurred in the washing court. Elder Gu knew enough to suspect it. He did not yet know enough to record it. Lin Fan lowered his eyes and let the elder think the silence belonged to caution. In truth, he was arranging contingencies. If Elder Gu ordered confinement, use root pain and kitchen evidence to redirect toward treatment. If he ordered immediate examination, reveal enough contamination to occupy him. If he asked about Zhang Hu directly, answer with witness terms. If he asked about the kitchen, mention smell, not theft. Each answer had to be true enough to survive later discovery. The elder's presence pressed on the room. Lin Fan's root mark pulsed once. He did not move. Elder Gu's gaze lowered to Lin Fan's abdomen, as if he had sensed the hidden pulse. Lin Fan let a controlled flicker of pain cross his face. Not enough to look staged. Not enough to look severe. Enough to remind the elder that whatever else Lin Fan was, the root remained unstable and valuable only if not mishandled. Elder Gu's eyes paused. There. Concern, not for the boy, but for the asset's condition. Lin Fan preferred that form of concern. It was predictable. Compassion wandered. Investment calculated. Your root pain worsened after the test, Elder Gu said. Yes. And after the washing court? Lin Fan lowered his eyes. Yes. Then you understand that another incident may damage what little value you gain today. Disciple understands. Do you? Lin Fan looked up. That is why Disciple ended it in one exchange. The answer entered the room quietly. Elder Gu understood the implication. Lin Fan had not avoided conflict. He had minimized cost. That was a language Elder Gu understood. The elder's expression did not soften, but the pressure in the room shifted. Lin Fan had not claimed innocence. He had claimed efficiency. In Azure Cloud Sect, efficiency excused more sins than virtue ever could. Elder Gu withdrew his gaze from the abdomen and looked again at Lin Fan's eyes. This time, he measured not a patient, but a possible subordinate problem. A subordinate problem could be fed, watched, and used. A mere patient could only consume medicine. Lin Fan preferred the first category, for now. Being used was not failure if the direction of use could be bent. Elder Gu thought in ledgers. Lin Fan could write in margins. Margins were where the official eye passed too quickly. Many lives were decided there. Lin Fan had survived by learning to read them. Now he would write one. Quietly. Without permission.